Hey everybody, it's a sort of okay show about horses with Kyle without Buck. I'm going to have to come up with a new title. Maybe I'll bring in my softie, which is Marshmallow, to assist me rather than have Buck at all. In fact, Marshmallow is given to me by my children and sometimes travels to events with me. And so I think it's probably a good idea to bring it into the show and leave Buck off. For all sorts of reasons. Like Buck isn't very good at this, and I am fantastic, and he's bringing me down. You can tell him I said that. Anyways, going over the Olympics dressage. Watched the second day today. Got most of it watched. Makes me really feel bad about all the things I say about dressage judges because it's painful to have to actually sit through all that. That said, I think in eventing dressage, it's even a little bit more difficult because you see some outstanding work and then you see some mediocre work. At this, I will say there was a lot of good tests. The 50th place is Jessica Phoenix on a 52. They're just hammering out the marks. There was a lot of very good tests, really consistent. Not quite as much flash maybe today. If they had the flash, we were lacking some of the consistency, and if it was really consistent and didn't have, say, the bigger movement, it just held them back from the top spots. So I think remarking on it, I was amazed that this was the Olympics, almost the dressage didn't happen. We had two very good tests or good marks, but I think we all expected a lot more horses into the 30s, which speaks really well for what's going to happen for the rest of the weekend rest of the week starting tomorrow, because now the pressure will be those little small points that you don't want to be giving up. They're jammed in there. Nobody's standing way out in front, which has been a while at one of these since we've had that. Watching today as well, I was impressed with the marking, because the one thing they didn't do is they didn't go, second day, and throw all the marks on the table. And they also didn't really punish overly a bunch of things. There was some, I will say there was some tests I saw that I was amazed how close they were to some, let's say, less good tests yesterday. That said, I was impressed also with the judges not seeming to hold a grudge. When something went wrong for someone early in a test, they were willing to come back up and throw good marks at them later in the canter, let's say. Joelle's horse was a good example of that. They were trying at the end to give it the marks after it blew the first part of its test. It was, very unfortunate for her. She looked like she probably wanted to just crawl under a rock afterwards. But the one thing is you handicapped her marks with that behavior in the ring, but you won't handicap her performance for the rest of the weekend because she is obviously one of the fastest riders in the world. And that horse is quite quick and a very good jumper across country. So that'll be fun to watch. It's been more fun to watch her in a little bit more of an individual placing. So the ones that I wanted to talk about a little bit, Lauren Billings from Puerto Rico. She lives in California. Great girl, representing one of the nations, obviously, from the South. And it is great for them, the smaller nations, to get riders there individually. She did a very good test, I thought, but didn't get a mark for it. The horse is a very flashy mover. It looks like a proper one. I think it might have been sourced by Mike Winter in England. He's been finding quite a few good horses for people, and I'm pretty sure that she went through him to find that one. It'll be very interesting to see it probably in the next cycle, the next 2 years. I know everybody's wanting the Olympics, but if you think longer term, that's going to be quite a good horse, and she's a very, very good rider. Kitty King had a disappointing test for her. That horse is a very good mover and looks very capable. And I know they put her in at the end, hoping she could really put more pressure on the rest of the teams. And it just didn't quite work out. And it is interesting when you look at how the judges compile, or the coaches compiled their teams this year. They put their strongest dressage horses, it seemed, on the first, in the second tier. Very unusual. I think they were all kind of hoping they would maybe stand out and get way ahead on that. I'm not sure it worked out quite the way that they all were anticipating, but obviously you got to factor in where you want people for cross country as well. So Kitty King was a little bit, less than what I think the Brits wanted, but she did a very good job when the horse got a bit flustered not to lose it. My fellow Canadians, Rebecca Howard, had a bit of a It was an okay test. It wasn't what it certainly wasn't as good as the horse can do, and she held the pressure sort of at bay. Colleen, unfortunately, this morning there was a little bit of noise in there, whether the mic went off accidentally or whether that was some of the payback that we'd heard that Canada might have to face after the Pan Ams last year. It's hard to say, but it seems a little bit, leading that it was a Canadian that it happened to. I thought she did a pretty good job of bringing the horse back together and getting what she could out of it. It's not the most flamboyant horse, but she did a nice job. Marks aren't there. I mean, it's just not happening for them. And that's not on her. It's just on the way things are rolling out at the moment. It is a young horse, but there are plenty of other young horses there that seem to be just taking a little bit stronger stance. We've got one thing one other person was, I wrote it down here and I had it on the phone, and unfortunately when someone called me, it cleared it off. Powell, I think his name's Powell, from Poland. He was in my aisle at the Olympics in the Canadian aisle at the Olympics in Hong Kong. And I can tell you it is an amazing transformation. He's a very good rider over fences. But the transformation in his riding from then till now is absolutely unbelievable. And both my wife and I were marking as well the horse quality on his end. This horse is unbelievable. So it's really cool to see that change up in the riding and in the quality of his horses. At the other end of at the top end, I thought Ingrid did an incredible job as usual, just riding a very consistent, brilliantly ridden test. The horse isn't very flashy. I thought when it would go to the canter, it would just all of a sudden jump off the arena floor, and it never did. It just kept doing the same thing the whole way. And the problem with horses like that is that you can put someone like Ingrid on, and they're going to get a mark out of it, and someone else isn't going to. But that's riding quality. But the problem is that you can't necessarily have any mistakes and be able to catch up to those top horses that were very, very flashy yesterday. And so she did a great job for Germany. She always does. And through the rest of the weekend, we know that Ingrid is going to keep going after it. Philip for the U.S., I mean, what a job. Fantastic work. It's their top score at the moment. Lauren just beat Boyd's test from yesterday, which I know the Americans are going to be disappointed with that. Obviously, they were disappointed with Clark's dressage yesterday. Philip is obviously the shining light right now. And with Philip, it was always a criticism on a lot of people's parts. His dressage wasn't good enough, and he's just gotten so consistent there. No, it's not a winning test yet, but it is incredibly competitive. It's right up there in the scores, and he did exactly what America needed. So through the rest of the weekend, I think Philip is looking at having yet another brilliant performance at the Olympic level. So that was my sort of wrap up on the individuals. Obviously, yesterday Christopher Burton really stepped up, and that horse, I mean, it looks like it should be out in the lead by quite a bit, in my opinion. There was some very good stuff there yesterday, but it just today was maybe not quite as sparkly and exciting as we thought it was going to be. We might have left all the tiaras yesterday. Anyways, thanks for joining in. I'm going to do a short break, and I'll be right back with the team results, because I think that's also a big, interesting component of this. All right, bye. Hey, everyone. We're back with the team component from the Olympics. This is going to go fairly quickly because I have a horse to show, because I've got to sell something to keep making my way in this wonderful world of eventing. So, look, at the top of the board, as everybody probably expected, we've got Germany on 122. I don't think that was hugely surprising, except that it took Ingrid to put them up into that spot. And I think that would be a bit of a shocker for everyone. France is only 0.2 behind them, and I can't imagine that was expected to be that close. So, it takes nothing. You've got first and second right there, and it's just going to be how they handle the rest of the weekend. Australia is on a 126.4 in third, so the same thing. And I think Australia, they didn't have the best dressage, or they didn't have the dressage they were hoping for on a couple of theirs. today. And with that, they are good jumping horses. So I would expect that Australia could, not just be in touch. I think Australia right now could be considered a strong contender for that first spot, and I don't think anybody should be shocked if they manage to pull that off. Germany and France also are very good jumpers and very solid, and France has been very much improving their consistency over the past couple of years. So I think it's going to be a great mix up, and Great Britain's in fourth, breathing down their necks on a 127. So we're like, this is, individual sort of stuff. They're that close. They're all within a rail or two. Ireland, huge step up, major shout out for the team. They absolutely are. And, people say, oh, they're back. They're not back. They're way better than they used to be. To be in fifth right now, they've been building over the last couple of years with, they had Ginny Lang coaching them for a while. I think that started them on the track. And now Nick Burton, I think it's Nick Burton or Nick Turner, sorry, is now coaching them. He used to coach Brazil, and I think he's really got this idea of how he wants it to proceed. And I think it's going to be really exciting times the next few years for Ireland, because I've seen horses they've left off competing that are unbelievable that most countries would want to take. So look out. Ireland is going to be a force to be reckoned with in the next 8 years if they just continue along the path they're on. So I'm super excited about that because I love to see mix-ups. United States is sixth after dressage. They didn't have the days they were hoping for, and because of that, they're starting a little behind. But you know what? This might be good for them, because occasionally, like at the Worlds, they were right there after the dressage, right up there, and it went completely the wrong way. So maybe they just need to work for it a little bit, and I think those riders can do it. So I wouldn't bet against them yet, but they're going to have to let other people make the mistakes and bring their teams to them. But that does happen. We've got New Zealand tied with them. Like, how do you get a tie in a team? Unbelievable. So New Zealand, again, bringing in great riders, great jockeys on the jumping. Italy's in eighth. They rode really well this weekend. They've got a couple of horses that are very nice, and the one didn't have its best day, but it could have been a contender for the lead. It is led. I think it was in the lead at the Worlds in the last Worlds, I think, after dressage. But it was incredible to watch. Great riding there. Brazil is in ninth. Go South America. I love it when the South Americans start to actually realize they are better than they think they are, because these guys, all those South American countries have great riders in there. Their programs are often lacking, and that is probably the biggest thing holding them back. I've coached down there extensively, and I'm telling you, if they could be channeled and follow a program, these guys would be more than Brazil up there. There would be 5 other ones up there with them. So I'm super excited about that, because I love the South American culture, love the people down there, and I love to see them contending. They're on a 144. They're not far off the U.S. Go Brazil. Actually, I'm kind of, I got to pull for them. I love the underdog, and I'd love to see them up there and get a medal. Then we got Sweden. We're starting to get into the countries that are just falling a little bit weak, a little shy. With Sweden on a 144, Netherlands on a 146, Canada in 12th on a 150, and then Russia in 13th on a 174. So Canada is dominating Russia. They're really showing them who's boss. So it's a little unfortunate that Canada's in that place. But I will say this, watching the Russians ride and the horses that they rode, I know they've got Bettina Hoy teaching them now, but they had some really nice horses there. I think that, quite honestly, watching what happened to the rider from Poland, watching the Russian riders and a few of these other countries, Sweden had a couple moments in there that were pretty sweet. Netherlands, had one that looked like it could have and just had a couple of little bobbles. I don't think Canada's going to be improving their situation in the next couple of years unless we come up with better horses. The horsepower is lacking. Our riders are certainly capable, but we're getting outclassed and we're getting outridden. Our improvements haven't kept us current, and those things have to change to make a change. But it's going to come down to a bit of that culture. Like, how bad do you want it? Do you want to keep that horse underneath you? Do you want to put more horses in this program? Do you want to see this success that I think Canada wants, and actually really support it, rather than go, gee, I hope it just works out? Because right now it's like throwing sticks on a fire that's been smothered. It's not doing any good. And I think what has to happen is, this is not a program, and this is not a program reflection, I don't think, when you look at these horses. This is a cultural thing. When you look at the horses that we've got in Canada as our top horses, and then you look at these other countries, they're better horses, and they're being ridden incredibly well, and those things are going to be pretty hard to top unless we start to take this a lot more seriously. And I think that in the end, that's a big conversation that's got to happen amongst riders and owners and riders and themselves and that sort of thing. And I'd like to see obviously that change, but right now it's the reality. We just don't have the same horsepower. We don't have the same organization. We're lacking in a lot of ways. And if you look at the successful teams in here, and you look at, I hate to say I don't know Italy terribly well, but from 9th down, all those teams have incredibly comprehensive programs. So it's pretty important individually we have it, and that also nationwide we have it. Enough of that, because this isn't a show about Canada. This is a show about us. So the whole world, our sport. I love what's going on as well. When I watched Dressage here, I was watching it and I was like, it's not just like one or two. You're watching riders, and they're unbelievable riders, and you're watching them be successful in there. And I think anybody in this discipline, if they did pure dressage, would watch that and go, "Oh my God, look at that! That riding's really good." Sure, tension marred it a little bit sometimes for some of them. There were some missed changes and things like that, but the quality of riding, I think, is across the board improved. I mean, I can't even imagine the percentage, probably like 80% in the last 20 years. So I think it continues to get better, consistently better. And now there's a bunch of riders out there that can all push those lines. So anyways, the cross-country course looks really technical. I've heard a ton of riders say how difficult they thought it was, all these 4-star riders. And then Jessica Phoenix was quoted as saying that she thought it looked great. It was right up her horse's alley. The fences were small, and her horse is a sports car. And I will say this, with Jessie, the one thing is, I wish I could live in that mind where you're constantly believing it's going to be good, because you enjoy the build-up better that way. And it usually does parlay into a better performance, because you're going out there with this positive mindset. And she lives it like nobody else that I know. So whenever I've been on a team with her, I always have to be careful, because if I bring my negative dark cloud to her little happy sunshiny place, I'm always afraid there might be huge thunderstorms or something. But anyways, so good on you, Jess. Keep that positive upbeat look. Thanks for joining me. See you tomorrow.